India Inc.'s most respected names, chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
I'm delighted to be chairing a committee of such distinguished fellow businessmen, bankers. It's just lovely to be back on this NDTV jury. I have been a fan of NDTV for a long time.
Many of the nominees are extremely close together in terms of what they've done.
Gender parity to be reflected while we choose leadership as well.
It's also important that how they are reshaping the industries.
We got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out on 3rd July at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards.
Higher end, check the audio. Higher end, check the audio.
Let's do it. Let's start. Big news that we're breaking first here on NDTV.
We know for sure that they have, confirmed their support to him.
We've got a picture of the letter. The breaking story, we're jumping straight into it.
They do not want to be part of an experiment.
Show around and then come to me. At the Nehru Stadium in Chennai.
Unconditional support.
Giant killer of TVK is here with us.
We've got Mr. Dinakaran with us here. Veera, why aren't you also dancing?
Vijay is coming out, TVK chief.
Big breaking story here on NDTV. Nobody else has these details. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the viewership. Thank you for the love.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा सबका राजा आग और मसाला।
Hello and welcome. You're watching India Sense, a show where we track how India is no longer just reacting to the world, but increasingly shaping it. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. Let's tell you what exactly we have lined up for you this weekend. India has checkmated Turkish activism against Indian interests by upgrading ties with Cyprus. It is now showing a keen desire to procure BrahMos cruise missiles. For Erdogan, a strong India-Cyprus relationship is a source of deep insecurity. We tell you why. Well, India has welcomed 3 heads of state, a deputy president, a deputy prime minister, and multiple foreign ministers, and the US Secretary of State. Why are all roads suddenly leading to New Delhi? We discuss. And then a story on India's FIFA moment. 4 footballers with Indian roots are preparing for the biggest tournament on the planet. The Indian flag may not be flying at FIFA World Cup 2026. Indian roots will be under football's brightest lights. All that and much more. Let's get you the headlines.
We have no problem on bilateral level with India, and we urge India not to read the issue from a different perspective.
As India-Cyprus strategic partnership gains momentum, Turkey moves to separate its ties from Pakistan, signaling strong desire for decoupling. Comes in after India is set to arm Turkey's neighbor.
And we're making a lot of money with India, but we'll get to a deal, because I like your Prime Minister a lot. He's a good friend of mine. Get along great, and we're going to make a deal. We have a very good relationship.
14 days, over 12 major diplomatic visits from heads of state to secretaries of state. Why are the world's biggest leaders assembling in New Delhi? We tell you. Amidst H-1B crisis and layoffs, Nvidia steps up hiring, promises top dollar for Indian tech talent. We decode how Indian techies remain the world's IT backbone. Delhi High Court upholds right to be forgotten as an integral part of the fundamental right to privacy. Says search engines cannot perpetually show judicial records once a case has been closed. 4 Indian origin footballers set to play in this year's FIFA World Cup. Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Kerala will all be represented under the World Cup spotlight. Our top story this week on India Sense. For years, Turkey believed it could shape outcomes in South Asia without consequences in its own neighborhood. That assumption has collapsed. 1 year ago, during Operation Sindoor, Turkish drones flew in Pakistani hands against India. Ankara picked up a side and picked it loudly. India did not forget. India has answered not with rhetoric, but with geography. Cyprus, the island Turkey has partitioned by force since 1974, is now turning to New Delhi. And let's tell you why. Cyprus is seeking Indian BrahMos missiles and kamikaze drones, and Ankara is alarmed at the sheer prospect of a regional military imbalance against it. The weapons that humbled Pakistan are now being courted by the nation sitting 65 kilometers off Turkey's coast. Why does Ankara fear this so deeply? Because it understands speed. Turkish analysts warn that these systems could compress air defense reaction timings, challenge even the S-400. And the BrahMos threat, viewers, is not theoretical. It has been proven in India's 2025 conflict with Pakistan. Asim Munir knows about this. But the deeper alarm is not one island. It is a bloc. Greece and Cyprus, long aligned against Turkish ambitions in the Eastern Mediterranean, are now drawing closer to New Delhi as a common supplier. Greece already flies F-16s and has positioned them in Cyprus during this year's crisis. In fact, Turkish analysts fear that Greece could acquire these systems indirectly through Cyprus as well, hardening an anti-Turkey bloc, degrading Ankara's air defenses across the region. A grudge born in South Asia is becoming a Mediterranean encirclement. On the back foot, Turkey now suddenly wants to decouple its ties with Pakistan. It understands that what an Eastern Mediterranean encirclement just a year after Operation Sindoor actually looks like. Listen in to Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan.
What needs to be done between Turkey and India, because we have a lot to cooperate, to benefit, and we are mature enough to go in this direction. So Turkey is not the only country who actually have good relations and brotherly relations with Pakistan. There are other countries. But as I said, we have no problem on bilateral level with India, and we urge India not to read the issue from a different perspective.
Message from New Delhi is unmistakable. India no longer absorbs provocations and just waits. It responds calmly, precisely, exactly where it hurts. Turkey supplied drones to Pakistan. India is arming Turkey's neighbors. The board has turned, and it seems far away from Erdogan. Shifting focus now to the other top story this weekend, India's ongoing diplomatic blitz. While much of the world remains consumed by wars, trade disputes, geopolitical uncertainty, New Delhi has actually rolled out the red carpet, emerged as one of the busiest diplomatic crossroads on the planet. In fact, in the last fortnight itself, viewers, New Delhi has welcomed 3 heads of state, a deputy president, a deputy prime minister, multiple foreign ministers, US Secretary of State, and trade delegations. From Europe to Africa, from the Indo-Pacific to the Americas, leaders from across the geopolitical spectrum have converged in the Indian capital. And in fact, there is a lot on the table. Consider Cyprus first. President arrived in India on a state visit that elevated the India-Cyprus ties to a strategic partnership. Then came United States. Secretary of State Marco Rubio traveled to New Delhi. The visit produced a framework agreement on critical minerals. Then came Australia. Foreign Minister Penny Wong participated in the Quad consultations. Japanese Foreign Minister, in fact, also joined those discussions in New Delhi. From Africa came South African Deputy President Paul Masal. His visit focused on trade, investment, and strengthening the entire region. From India's immediate neighborhood came Myanmar. And the president of Myanmar, the discussions with him focused on border security, connectivity projects. Then came the Australian Deputy PM, Defence Minister. There, the talks focused on strengthening defence cooperation. That's very important. Indo-Pacific is a key aspect. This is the reason why Laos followed soon after. The Deputy PM and Foreign Minister there came to India to mark 70 years of diplomatic ties, but most importantly, it was about border security, Indo-Pacific and the entire region. Trade was also pretty much on the discussion. Brendan Lake, Washington's chief trade negotiator, spent 4 days in New Delhi, advancing negotiations on the India-US trade pact, which Sergio Gore says is 99% done. Then came the UK Foreign Secretary. The agenda was once again not just trade, but a whole host of other things. Venezuelan acting president is here because India is one of the world's biggest oil shoppers at this stage. India's leadership to discuss energy security and oil supplies all on the table. Diplomatic traffic has not stopped, as I said. And as we speak, Nepal's foreign minister is very much in India for talks that are focused on border, trade, connectivity and cultural ties for a new and young government. I'm going to play out some of those reactions for you to get a sense of just how busy India has been in terms of diplomacy, straddling multiple spheres: trade, geopolitics, energy security, neighborhood ties, border security. All that in the last fortnight alone. Take a look at some of those reactions.
Venezuela possesses one of the largest oil reserves in the world. The Indian economy is a large and growing consumer of oil and will have a stable demand growth for many years to come. Thus, in the energy sector, we see a perfect complementarity. In fact, in our spot purchases, Venezuela has already emerged as the third largest supplier this month. So quite naturally, today's discussions focused on forging an energy partnership.
And we're making a lot of money with India, but we'll get to a deal, because I like your Prime Minister a lot. He's a good friend of mine. Get along great, and we're going to make a deal. We have a very good relationship.
Destinations may be different, the agendas may vary, but the underlying message is remarkably consistent. Countries increasingly view India as a nation that matters to their economic, strategic and diplomatic calculus. Strategic affairs experts, in fact, describe India as that power that is capable of engaging both Washington and Moscow, Europe and the global south, ASEAN, Africa and Latin America, simultaneously on its own terms, not being part of any of the poles. The world's diplomatic map appears to be drawing more and more lines towards one destination, and New Delhi has been playing host to several of them in the last fortnight. To talk more on why this is so significant, what can be expected going forward, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi joins me on the broadcast. He's Vice Chancellor, Nalanda University. Sir, let me start by asking you, the fact that in a fortnight you have dozen leaders, heads of state, trade delegations all coming in to India, how do you read that pattern?
I think it's a continuous sort of evolution of the global economy, Gauri, that we are watching for last couple of months, when we are seeing the strong trends in macroeconomic fundamentals of Indian economy. The idea of strategic autonomy that on the diplomatic front we have extended, and we have consolidated the partnership within the global south. So if you see the overall balance that your initial report just now mentioned in terms of leaders coming from countries as wide as US, Cyprus, South Korea, Austria, Finland, Canada. But at the same time, you also find economies from the global south. Venezuela, you just mentioned, but Myanmar, PDR, Lao PDR, South Africa, Vietnam, all these countries are coming. So you find a sort of traction both for the developed north and also the global south. And here, I think there are three broad sort of traits that you find in these engagements. First and foremost is interest in Indian economy. Our continued focus on free trade agreements, our opening up of trade, investment, technology, all the three that we have opened up. We have shown pragmatism, and more pragmatic decision-making is happening. The second is huge diplomatic engagement that is happening. If you see since 2019, External Affairs Minister has made almost 153 visits to 90 countries.
That's an important point, sir. Just interrupting you for 10 seconds. It's a very important point you made. about the fact that India is significant from a trade point of view, also from the larger geopolitical calculus point of view. We're talking about these visits, these multiple hectic diplomatic exchanges happening at a time when there's a war that's taking place. And that has forced many countries to take sides, to sharpen their divides. And in that, how do you see India being placed at a position where it's able to negotiate and navigate these headwinds?
Exactly, Gauri. And if you see the visits that are happening now, the work has been in progress for last several months. These heads of the state visits don't happen just like that. So you find that the efforts which have been made on the trade front, on economy front, and also in terms of pragmatism within partnership. Yeah. You very brilliantly pointed out Turkey's case. I must congratulate you for that. But we should not forget that it was in 2023 that India proposed what was called as IMAC, the India-Middle East Economic Corridor. And we had deliberately not included Turkey, and we had proposed ending it up with Greece. Yeah. And the investments that we have made in the ports in Greece, Italy jumped in, but also Turkey was helpless. So this shows the vision, it shows commitment, but also the power of economy that has now started delivering the results. So what you are seeing with the rise of visits is actually work for last more than 5-6 years, consistent efforts. And the third, which I should also mention, is in terms of our monetary and fiscal policy convergence. Okay. What Reserve Bank is doing with the open market operations, what fiscal prudence that we have shown, they all have huge macro visits that we are seeing. And the kind of bringing in that we are identifying. So that, I think, is delivering the results.
Professor Chaturvedi, thank you so much for joining us in this edition of India Sense and really decoding that story for us in such detail.
Thank you.
Turning attention now to the other story on the show this week, India's techies are the world's backbone. Despite the H-1B visa debate, layoffs across Silicon Valley, tighter immigration rules, one reality remains unchanged. The global tech ecosystem runs on Indian talent. From AI laboratories in California to enterprise cloud corridors in Seattle and quantum research hubs in New York, Indian original leaders are occupying the most consequential seats in global tech. They are building decisions that affect billions of users, reshape industries, define how societies interact with information, commerce, and culture. In boardrooms where the future of AI, cloud infra, and digital media is debated, Indian voices are no longer peripheral. They are decisive. In fact, while America's biggest tech companies are cutting jobs, slowing foreign recruitment, several companies are going against the tide. Take AI giant NVIDIA, for instance. As per recent federal filings, NVIDIA secured certification for nearly 1,200 H-1B positions during the first 2 quarters of 2026 fiscal. That's roughly about 1,000 positions up during the same period last year. Google's approved H-1B hires, of course, fell to around 2,200 from 5,100 a year earlier. Amazon's approvals also dropped from 6,100 to 4,300. The NVIDIA story, of course, really stands out. But despite this, these tech giants remain committed to India. As per US Ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, they've pledged billions in India to promote AI-driven digitization. Listen in.
In addition to government engagement, the U.S. private sector has made significant commitments in India, and that is the win-win situations that we identify. Amazon expects to invest $35 billion into India by 2030 to advance AI-driven digitization, export growth, and job creation. Microsoft announced a $17.5 billion investment in India, including the expansion of hyperscale cloud infrastructure. And earlier this month, Google announced a $15 billion AI hub to support AI research.
And the Indian impact extends far beyond just employment numbers. Indian-born entrepreneurs lead all foreign countries when it comes to creating unicorns, most of them, in fact, being tech startups. There's a small population segment that actually drives a disproportionately significant share of American tech firms. Every single Indian-founded unicorn creates significant employment opportunities for American workers. Indian innovators outpace global rivals in pioneering next-gen AI platforms. The collective financial weight of these enterprises fundamentally alters global markets. The message is clear. Visa rules may change, hiring cycles may rise and fall, political winds may shift. But when the world builds the technologies of tomorrow, Indian talent remains embedded in its very foundation. Not just participating in the future, helping design it. All right, on that note, a quick break. We return with more stories on the other side. Stay with us.
मीठा या नमकीन, चाहे जैसे खाओ, 100% सूजी से बनी आर प्योर वर्मिसेली, स्वादिष्ट, सेहतमंद हर रोज।
Economy, business, world, technology. Noise filtered, numbers decoded. Insights that rewire your worldview. From governance to growth, we connect the dots. Your daily edge, your global advantage. India Business Report with me, Gauri Dwivedi, weeknights on NDTV Profit.
Landed in the beautiful state of Andhra Pradesh, which has no shortage of its own superstars. And that's why it's our pleasure to be joined today on NDTV by Pawan Kalyan, the Deputy Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. Good to have you, sir. You were recently denied permission, sir, on Telangana Formation Day.
I think somehow they're scared. Otherwise, there is no need for them to deny permission.
Is the India bloc, up on its last legs?
I had seen in my family, they were very strong supporters of Congress. As long Indira Gandhi was, even to an extent Rajiv Gandhi was there, they could slowly, but the disconnect started because of their policies. I really expected some kind of a greater understanding when this man, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, if I go and meet people, that gives me a very greater understanding, greater depth. But I felt after walking from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, and the way he understood, then I said he has become more shallow.
It was genuinely a first day, first show kind of perfect political storm for Vijay. What went through your mind when you saw it unfold?
I came into politics in 2007, and from then...
2 decades.
2 decades.
Yeah, amazing.
And it was a tough journey for me, and sometimes I felt like giving up, sometimes I feel like, why the hell I was in politics. I wish I could have such kind of smooth journey like Mr. Vijay. In that way I said, okay, I was envious.
Yeah. You have a good relationship with the BJP and especially with Prime Minister Modi.
This man is the future of our country and we need it.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है, अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा और प्योर मसाला।
It's time to now tell you about Pakistan's army chief Asim Munir and his yet another bid to tighten his grip over his country even more. Well, he might be in the good books of US President Donald Trump, maybe best friends with him as well, but it's time for the world's oldest democracy to know exactly what is going on behind the scenes in Islamabad. He appointed himself the field marshal, but that wasn't enough for Asim Munir. He's consolidated control over all institutions, intel agencies, changed the constitution, but even that isn't enough, because now what he's doing is, Asim Munir is going to ensure that all police forces across Pakistan come under a single security command dominated by, yes, you guessed it right, the Pakistani military. The reason, of course, that is given is better coordination against rising threats. But the real reason is that Pakistan is now becoming more and more towards a military dictatorship, where Asim Munir has completely taken over not just all institutions, he has turned the constitution, whatever it's worth, in Pakistan, also upside down. This has nothing to do with counter-terror. It has absolutely nothing to do with ensuring that there is better security. It has everything to do with centralizing power. The move comes as Munir is also locked in a tussle with Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif over Pakistan's budget. The civilian government has always been a puppet. It's even more so under Asim Munir's tenure. It wants more spending for people amidst a struggling economy. Asim Munir, of course, wants more money to be spent on defense spending, on the army, which anyways rules there. Analysts say the proposal could blur the line even more between the civilian law enforcement and military authority, giving the army even more control over Pakistan's provinces completely. Timing, of course, is extremely significant. Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Sindh are all witnessing deep unrest, anger over lack of development. They want funding, they want spending on development. What is it that Asim Munir wants? He wants more military and defense spending. He wants more power under his control. And this is going to further fuel more instability in Pakistan. For many observers, the question is no longer who runs Pakistan. The question is whether any institution remains outside the reach and purview of Asim Munir. A question that we will get to know sooner than later. Well, our final story this week on India Sense. Qualifying for the FIFA World Cup has remained a dream for India. But when the 23rd edition kicks off in the Americas on the 11th of June, 4 footballers with Indian roots will walk on to football's biggest stage. Sarpreet Singh, Samuel M., Nishan Velupalli and Tehseen Mohammad. This is the story of 4 journeys, 4 jerseys, one shared connection to India. Take a look.
The Indian team won't be at the World Cup 2026, but India will still have a presence. Courtesy 4 footballers with Indian roots who are preparing for the biggest tournament on the planet. First up, Sarpreet Singh. Born in Auckland to Punjabi parents, Sarpreet once played against India in Mumbai. He later made history as the first footballer of Indian descent to break into Bayern Munich's first team. Then comes Samuel Motosami, a midfield warrior with Tamil ancestry through his Indian Guadeloupean father. More than 50 appearances for Democratic Republic of Congo, a career spanning France, Turkey and Greece. Australia's Nishan Velupalli is another name to watch. Born to Anglo-Indian mother, the Melbourne Victory winger announced himself by scoring on his international debut. Fast, fearless and headed to his first World Cup. And then there's Tehseen Mohammad. Born in Doha to Malayali parents from Kannur, the first Indian origin player to feature in the Qatar Stars League. India may still be waiting for its first appearance on football's biggest stage. But this summer, traces of Punjab, Tamil heritage, Anglo-Indian ancestry and Kerala will all be represented under the World Cup spotlight. And while the Indian flag may not be flying at the FIFA World Cup 2026, Indian roots will definitely be running, passing, tackling, and well, dreaming beneath football's striped lights.
And as we wrap things up on this edition of India Sense, we leave you with these visuals posted by UK's Commonwealth Office. They show UK Foreign Secretary's visit to India, her engagements and a visit to the iconic India Gate. Take a look.
Higher rate, check the audio. Higher rate, check the audio.
Let's do it. Let's start.
Breaking story, we're jumping straight into it.
We've got a picture of the letter. What is in your letter? You can never predict what's going to happen in Tamil Nadu politics. 21 days in Kashmir. Unfiltered list of things I saw and observed on the ground. Very special ground report from the line of control. There were some children who've lost limbs in the shelling.
For a country that has fought so many wars in the mountains and at high altitude.
We're standing on the Indian Navy's newest warship. The line of control, Shiv Arur, NDTV.
Today we are asking the question, what does India think about the political direction in which the country is going? 62% of TMC voters do want Mamata Banerjee to continue. 65.8% of BJP voters think Shubhendu Adhikari has done a fantastic job.
And a lot will depend on how Shubhendu Adhikari ensures that neither those people come into the BJP's rank and file.
Mamata Banerjee's politics in Bengal, at least in Bengal, is really on a dangerous curve.
That we are moving towards Sonar Bangla. The industries which left today, Trinamool to nahi pata, but Amul will come. Trinamool ke badle Amul aayega, Tata aayega. Tata nahi karenge industry ko.
Now the allegation against the BJP is you've turned it into a witch hunt.
They don't have bharosa on the ex-chief minister, on Mamata Banerjee.
We at NDTV travelled across the length and breadth of West Bengal. This was the hottest election in all of India. And all of India watched it on NDTV. Why I say this, it could be a big story. Thank you. Stories that no one else had. The memorial they have built is not just for Avijit. Houses still bear the scars of bombs that were thrown inside.
Hello and welcome. My name is Reet Kaur Sahani and you're watching NDTV. We've got an action-packed show lined up just for you. But let's first take you through the headlines of the hour. India's latest GDP figures have ignited a fierce political showdown. The government is celebrating robust growth and projecting India as the world's fastest-growing major economy. Prime Minister Modi has accused critics of undermining the vision of an Atmanirbhar